I gotta tell you, I don't blame people for being concerned about whether their kid has empathy for others. But at the same time, there is no reason to go into a panic that your 5-year-old lacks empathy and is therefore potentially a sociopath. Let me reassure you. Hello out there. This is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, coming to you today with another educational video. I seem to spend a lot of time dispelling myths on this channel, and I'm happy to do so. I'm very fascinated by myths and usually pretty happy to discuss them. So today we're going to talk about empathy and kids. And it's understandably an intense subject, and it's understandably a sort of complex one. But what I invite people to think about always is the fact that there's usually a lot of potential explanations for a given thing. For example, the reason that a child could be defiant could be that they just have got a problem with authority. It could be that they're very anxious and overwhelmed. It could be that they're depressed and irritable. It could be that they're experiencing a trauma reminder and are feeling upset, or it could be even, less pathology kind of stuff, like maybe just the kid's very stressed out that day, or maybe the kid doesn't feel heard by you and therefore doesn't want to listen to you. So that very common complaint about kids not listening to adults can have lots of different things going on that can basically lead to the same problem behavior. Now, where empathy in kids comes up very frequently for me as a practicing child psychologist is when we're talking about kids and getting into conflict with others. And very justifiably, parents bring up to me concerns a lot about their kid not really showing empathy in a situation where they have wronged someone else and are being called out on it. So the biggest and most common culprit in that situation is not a lack of empathy, really. It is usually about the word defensive. So what does it mean to be defensive from a psychological standpoint? To be defensive basically means to have a hard time accepting what someone else is saying or accepting responsibility for your own actions, something like that, because of emotional stuff. For example, people have given me some feedback on my videos. There's been some great feedback, and some folks have said, hey, you need to shoot things a little differently, which is what I'm doing right now. And it would be easy for me to be defensive about that. I'm doing everything fine. Leave my videos alone. You don't know what you're talking about. That's basically what defensiveness is about, and it can look a lot of different ways. So the common scenario is a kid being called out for, say, maybe hitting another kid and being asked to reflect on, well, can you imagine how that made your sister feel? And kiddo's going, I don't know, and is being really kind of defensive and aloof and minimal. And usually, really often, what that's about is just kiddo feels defensive because he's being called out. He's being asked to admit a mistake. He probably doesn't want to have to admit, wow, that feels really bad to think that I hurt my sister's feelings. So that can really frequently happen. Additionally, with young kids, say kids 0 through about 4 or 5-ish, particularly 0 through 3, those kids don't even really have the development cognitively to be able to go, let me imagine myself in someone else's shoes and think of what it must be like to experience things from their perspective. That's actually a rather advanced skill. You'll start to see it occur basically, and in real basic ways, in 4-year-olds, but we're talking in real concrete, obvious ways. And there's some really fascinating research that was done on that subject. Getting into the details of that is kind of beyond the scope of the video, but basically the research concluded that the basic capacity to start taking someone else's perspective in a simple way doesn't seem to start until about age 4. So long of it short, I promise you that your kid is probably not a sociopath if they don't seem to be good at showing empathy in situations where a lot of people, adults included, would be kind of defensive. And I just invite you, if you're scared of that, if you're kind of going, oh my gosh, my kid isn't showing empathy in this situation, I just invite you to think, how many adults do you know in this exact kind of situation who would be great at being really validating, understanding, and empathic? Is it a really good goal to work towards? Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I absolutely support your intentions. But mostly what I encourage parents to do in these kinds of situations is just focus more on helping the kid develop better skills with managing conflict and things like that. I wouldn't really worry so much about big words like empathy and whether they're a sociopath. Those things are usually just way above the pay grade of what's going on for kids, particularly younger kids, like, 0 through 10-ish, 0 through 8-ish. It's just not something we're really too worried about at that point. Is it possible that you've got a kid who has something like early on, childhood onset conduct disorder or something like that? Yes, that's possible. It's rare and it's really terrifying when it's there. But, boy howdy, are you going to see a whole lot more from that kid than just defensiveness in a conflict. And defensiveness by itself really isn't consistent with sociopathy. So at any rate, I hope this video put to rest some worries that some folks might have about kids and showing empathy, particularly in conflict with others. This is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, about to sign out. If you haven't already done so, please do subscribe by hitting a button down below. It really means a lot to me and helps out the channel. And also, please do share this video on any and all of your socials if you're so inclined. Otherwise, take good care, and until the next one.